Welcome to Potter's Bluff.
From the creators of Alien, terror brought down to Earth, dead and buried.
Is there any way whatsoever to reanimate people after they have died? To get them to walk around?
That guy, the one you came to see me about last week, the one that died after the car wreck.
Yeah.
I just saw him. Man, he's dead. The same guy.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello there.
This week, we'll be discussing the horror classic, Dead and Buried, starring Grandpa Joe.
Grandpa Joe. Oh, Lord.
It's an all-star cast.
It was it was the man part of Chico and the Man.
It was the man. I did some researching on Chico and the Man because that was before my time. They didn't show that a lot of syndication on Channel 9.
I think it's because it was so short-lived. So usually they have to be so many seasons. But I believe there was some unfortunateness.
There was some unfortunate. Well, I think it was during season 2 or at the end of season 2, Freddie Prinze Sr., who was Chico, committed suicide.
Right.
So then they had to come up with a new Chico, basically. And it lasted another season with Nuevo Chico and the Man, I guess.
Who was Nuevo Chico?
I don't know.
I do remember watching Chico and the Man when it was actually on. And to me, it always kind of reminded me of in Sanford and Son,
right?
Fred Sanford, and then there was the Chicano friend of
absolutely
his son. So I feel like they peeled that off, Julio, like they took a spin off of that relationship.
Well, it's kind of that. It's like Sanford and Son meets All in the Family.
Yeah,
where it's a kind of he's an old racist. And then he learns not to be slightly less racist by hanging around with nothing but minorities.
Well, I think it's like that generation where he's an old racist who doesn't realize he's an old racist. These are all racist stereotypes because that's just how he'd raised. I mean, he wouldn't march with the Klan.
No.
But he definitely had racist attitude. You're right. It's like a Sanford and Son. Exactly. In the workplace.
In the workplace.
Not Sanford and Son. All in the family in the workplace is what I meant to say.
Exactly.
Good
time.
And Freddie Prinze had the Dorothy Hamill, if I recall. The male Dorothy Hamill.
Honestly, I mean, this is the thing. This is a sign of the times. It's I am much more familiar with Freddie Prinze Jr. than I ever was with Freddie Prinze Sr. I didn't even know who Freddie Prinze Sr. was until Freddie Prinze Jr. became fairly famous. They said, oh, by the way, his dad used to star in a sitcom called Chico and the Man back in the 70s.
Okay, Jose Feliciano did the theme song. Chico, don't be discouraged. The man, he ain't so hard to understand. How about that?
Chico and the Man.
I remember every bullshit sitcom theme song, but I still can't do math. How about that?
There you go. Still can't. And you're a school teacher. So
and
good
I'm
times.
a school teacher.
Good times. I
was going to say something else.
Please.
Because the reverse could be said about Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee. I think people are more familiar with the father than the poor, tragic, short-lived son.
Absolutely. Well, that's
The Crow.
Right. Okay. Bruce Lee really wasn't in that many movies either.
No. He's a legend, though. He's like
James Dean.
He's like James Dean.
James Dean also not in that many things. It's kind of unrealized potential.
Right. Live fast, die young.
Right. So you're right. It's Brandon Lee, again, it's I could list a bunch of movies by Brandon Lee that you've never even heard of.
For sure. I'm
not
sure I ever even saw The Crow. But I
saw
know
The Crow.
There's a lot of guys were into The Crow.
A lot of goths.
A lot of goth boys.
That's how we do. Give us the 30-second synopsis of Dead and Buried.
First of all, before I roll into that, where did you find this piece of shit?
I actually saw years and years ago. I was wandering around the warehouse movies and records, and you could rent movies from the warehouse. This is before Blockbuster even.
Yeah.
And one of the tapes was, I always remember seeing it, was Dead and Buried. And it looked kind of creepy just from the cover art or whatever. You know what I mean? I think I saw this movie about 20 years ago. And I remember the twist, but I remember nothing else for some reason.
All right. Interesting.
But then I was reading my book, The Ultimate Zombie Encyclopedia, and they referenced this movie, and it kind of reminded me, oh, yeah. Grandpa Joe. Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka's in it.
He needs to get his ass back into bed.
Yes. You're telling me. I always talk about how it's hilarious. Grandpa Joe in Willy Wonka, he gets out of bed, and Jack Albertson, who plays Grandpa Joe, was like 60 at the time he filmed Willy Wonka.
Okay? So he was 110 here.
No, this is only a couple of years later. He wasn't that, I mean, comparatively speaking, he wasn't that old. But he's only 60 when he gets out of bed in Willy Wonka. And he's like, I haven't been out of bed for 20 years. So when he was 40, 5 years younger than me, he's like, I'm just getting in bed. I'm staying here. Sorry. You're on. Everybody else, you're on your own.
I'm in bed right now. I embrace the philosophy. I'm just not so sure about the other three people also in there with me.
It's a sad situation, let me tell you.
Like, we're starving to death. Get your asses out of bed, Willy Wonka grandparents. And
my daughter's a single mom. I'm putting the whole weight of the entire family on her washing clothes in a big old barrel, and that's it. Sorry, you're taking care of all of us.
Potato gruel. Now, in the book, her husband was alive.
Yes, in the book, right. In the book, there's still a husband who's also, I don't know what he's doing, shoveling snow.
He's in bed too. He sleeps in the middle.
He climbs in, exactly. Good Lord. It's like Caligula over there at the Willy Wonka household. Anyway, moving on. Now, had you never even heard of this movie?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Not even watching it, there's no flash of recognition at all.
None.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. You ready for my review?
Lay it on me.
People show up to the seaside village, which is pretending to be New England, but it is, of course, Mendocino. As soon as I saw the town, I'm like, that's Northern California.
Yep.
And with 1,000 rando accents.
Right.
Everybody decided to embrace some other random accent.
Yes.
Just saying. So people show up, strangers in town, and they kill them in terrifying ways.
Yes.
Why? Even when we know why, it really doesn't make sense. So people show up. There's a sheriff that is trying to investigate all this stuff.
All these murders.
People are disappearing.
Yep.
They dig up graves. Body's not there. Unwrap. Empty grave except for a bundle of sweaters, which inside is a human heart.
Right.
Again, people get lost. People need gas. Then they're hunted down and killed in terrible ways. Then magically appear
as somebody in town. Like now they work in town.
Now they work in town.
Right.
So yeah, one by one, and then in the end, it's the mortician.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert! It's the mortician. So, are we to suspect that this was an empty town and that needed to be populated? Because clearly, no one lives in this town except for the man. He's the only human. And then at the end, he ain't human either. You're
going to call him the man. I'm going to call him Grandpa Joe. We'll agree to disagree.
I forgot Grandpa Joe. Grandpa Joe.
Oh, sweet
Joe,
Jesus.
Grandma Josephine, Grandpa George, Grandma Georgina.
That is correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, did I forget anything that was important? I honestly thought it was heading towards a Wicker Man situation, and then it wasn't. So I was almost disappointed, because then if the Wicker Man, that might make sense.
Well, there are questions that you ask, and sometimes there's some kind of resolution, and sometimes there's still questions, right? Because you're right. If you stop in town and literally go like, hey, where's the nearest gas station? They'll kill you.
Dead.
They kill the whole
Don't
town
stop.
rises up and murders you. So don't even stop. Don't stop for gas. Don't do it. I mean, it's not like these people like stop there and then discover something they aren't supposed to see. No, homie was like on the beach just taking pictures of like seagulls and stuff.
Oh my God!
And then boom.
Was that Captain and Tennille? They were
It was
rocking
Captain
the
and Tennille.
full Captain and Tennille as the first thing. Captain Tennille.
Was that the thing? Like, if you're like, hey, I'm going to the beach, let me get my captain's hat on. Was that standard back in the 70s? I don't know if that's
Those
how it
are
works.
like the Greek fishermen's hats. I think you still get those at the Chinese import store.
Well, but
yeah.
it's not even the. It's like the white one with like the what is it, like a life preserver symbol on the brim or whatever. I can't even describe.
That's why I said they're Greek fisherman hats.
It's a horror story. Whatever it is, it's a horror
and
story.
he's a professional photographer, so of course I'm going to take my Mamiya and take pictures of a fucking seagull. Because, right, you're a professional.
Right. Well, and that's, I thought, because he's out there taking pictures with his fancy captain's hat when the chick from Officer and a Gentleman shows up.
What?
And starts throwing, do you remember her? Not Deborah Winger.
No, clearly not Deborah Winger.
She was Deborah Winger's friend who worked in the factory, who's also romancing the pilot.
That whole movie. I think I've seen it once. Once
Little-
there was that suicide.
Yes.
Well, no. I can't.
Okay.
I can't do that.
Little tangent here. Officer and Gentleman, Richard Gere is
First
going
of all,
to become
Richard Gere, I always thought looked like Uncle Bob, so I'm not going to get hot for relatives. So it always made me feel cringy.
You're being very charitable to Uncle Bob. Anyway, and no offense, anybody. Anyway, so he goes to become, I guess, like a naval aviator, kind of like Top Gun before Top Gun kind of thing. So in this town of this flight school or whatever it is, all the women who work at the factory in that town, their big dream is to marry one of these guys.
And get the hell out of your crazy town.
And get the hell out of that town, because then they can go off and live a life of adventure, because they could be, I don't know, stationed in Okinawa or whatever.
That's
Deborah
why
Winger,
the guys in that town are the ones who join the military. It's always these small towns with people with no future are the ones who are joining the military to get the hell out.
Right. So Deborah Winger starts a romance with Richard Gere. Richard Gere's buddy, his name is David Keith, not to be confused with Keith David.
Who's Keith David?
Keith David is the big black guy from The Thing and They Live.
Isn't David Keith the guy from Family Affair?
That's Brian Keith.
Oh.
It's very complicated. Richard Gere's friend starts dating Deborah Winger's friend, the blonde chick. So they start hooking up. And then one thing, he gets kicked out or decides to leave to move back to Oklahoma. And he wants his lady love to come back to Oklahoma with him, not be a pilot, but just to work in at the supermarket or whatever. And she unceremoniously dumps him.
It wasn't even going to be
it was horrible
move for her. It would be a downgrade.
Right.
And
it was, yes.
I mean, men want to say, well, she's a money grabber, but you've built a relationship thinking he is the person, and that's not who he is. He is actually this other thing. It's like, I mean, this happens all the time. Like on my 90-day fiance,
oh, God.
they always dating these guys, and they don't know. They're coming from a major European city, and then all of a sudden they're in some Oregon town 3 hours from the closest city, or they're in Oklahoma where there's nothing. It's not like Europe, and they're like,
what did I do?
What did I do? This is not enough. I mean, changing your life is more than just one person, you know? It's a whole situation.
Absolutely. No question.
But everybody wanted to label her as a money grabber, but I tell you,
it was pretty bad, Aaron.
I'd be like,
it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
I mean, how she broke up with him was bad, and then he killed himself, of course.
Right.
But I would not have been moving to Oklahoma either.
Well, but I think there's got to be a gray area between, okay, so you're not going to be Tom Cruise in Top Gun, but maybe we could negotiate so you're not bagging groceries at the Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
Maybe there's
I
some
agree.
place to.
There should have been a conversation.
Yes.
And for sure, I'm not going to say that all women are saints. There are women. I mean, how many times has Hugh Hefner been married to people old enough to be his great-grandchild?
Yes.
So there are women who can marry as a profession, for sure. But I'm just saying, I wasn't going to move to Oklahoma and be married to that bagger living in a trailer with 3 kids on the welfare. Screw that.
I think this is men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of stuff, where it's like there is something very attractive to certain women just in terms of like stability.
Absolutely. Security.
No question.
So
no
now
question.
you've just pulled the rug out from under me. So now I'm in a worse situation I was in.
The way she did it made it seem like I never really cared about you.
Right.
It was always the fact. Yes. So that was the thing. She dumps him in a split second and says, like, we were supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and now you're telling me I'm going to be an Okie from Muskogee. Deuces. I'm out. And he promptly hangs himself. And of course, So that's
another reason not to date people that have issues. I mean, clearly he had 1,001 issues besides Oklahoma.
Yes. Louis Gossett Jr. was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Officer and a Gentleman, by the way.
Yeah, so he had a future.
He did. We're talking about everything but we're talking about everything but Dead and Buried at this moment right now. So first we're talking about
that whole suicide is why I never watched that movie. It was very upsetting.
So needless to say, that's this chick.
This chick, and we get to see her boobuses for gratuitous. The captain needed a look-see.
Well, she's like, I could be a model, and he's like, sounds good. Now, was he just saying like, hey, I'm a professional photographer just to get the hot blonde to disrobe on the beach? Is that how it works?
He's like, I'm on a photo shoot taking pictures of seagulls for the Motel 6.
That's what he said.
With my $500 camera.
That's right.
And I will say, this movie is like an homage to every kind of. There was all kinds of cameras in this for camera freaks. At one point, the sheriff was taking pictures with an SX70. Everybody's got like an Instamatic. Mm-hmm. We got this, that, and the other thing.
Well, they had video cameras.
Cameras. Well, it was Super 8, I think.
Yes, it was Super 8. Well, because what was happening? Okay, let me ask you.
And the Mummy is still being made today.
That's true. So he is probably, when they start their little romance, like 15 townspeople show up and attack him. Blondie's in on it. He gets burned alive while they're all taking pictures.
Right.
Now, do you know why?
Pictures and videos. But now I know why.
Why do they take all those pictures?
Well, because it's an artist colony of photographers. No! It's because... I'm guessing it's because they're going to need those pictures for the reconstruction.
That they don't say that, but I believe that's what the case. I think that's what we're supposed to think. Because the grand reveal is Grandpa Joe, the eccentric mortician, brings everybody back to life, and he's very sketchy on the details. He's like, some call it black magic, some call it science. Who's to say? I'll take it with me to my grave, is what he says. That's real convenient for script writers, let me tell you. Good times.
And you know what it is? It's very Death Becomes Her, because they start disintegrating and they age. I mean, there's so much paint you can put on before they putrefy.
Right.
And so what's the point?
Well, they established Grandpa Joe had been fired from his previous posting, like in a big city as mortician, because he was doing experiments with the bodies. I guess they don't do a lot of background checks at Potter's Bluff or whatever the heck this place is called.
I mean, I'm trying to understand. Every now and then you'll hear about these little Northern California cities that go up for sale. I think there was one called like Bridgeport. So for $3.2 million, you can buy this whole town. The downtown, the post office, the restaurant, homes, and everything.
It's like Halloween 3.
It's like Halloween. Well, that was filmed up there
you go.
too.
Silver Shamrock, the whole town.
Silver Shamrock. That was filmed in Lolita. So my question is, did Grandpa Joe Because he's old, so he's not
Yes.
necessarily killing all these people by himself. Did he buy this empty town and is populating it?
I don't think so. Go ahead.
Or why do you need more additions?
It's early on. I mean,
Everyone in the town is a freak.
But that's the thing. Not everybody. It seems like it's like randomly they're okay. I'll tell you, the doctor in the hospital is not, because then they kill him.
Well,
right? Randomly, there are people in town who are just not until later they are.
Yeah. So by the end of the movie, who's not?
I think everybody is by the end of the movie,
including Grandpa Joe.
Including Grandpa Joe,
who was able to raise himself from the dead while being dead. So
yes,
when he'd bring him, he'd whisper something to the dead body after the reconstruction, and they would rise. So he whispered to himself while he was alive.
It's hard because he was literally, you could see him sticking himself with like the embalming tools. So he has to like embalm himself while he's still with it. I mean, I'm not sure how this works. I'm not a mortician.
I mean, this is an ancient Egypt and they're mummified.
Right.
I mean, the embalming gives you a couple days, you know? It's not like, I mean, some of these people are walking around for years.
I think they have to go. They have to come back for touch-ups. Is the grand reveal?
They're rotting.
Right. There would definitely be a smell.
They're gonna smell.
Yes.
And how come
slowly
the
decompose?
Sheriff never needed a touch-up?
Well, maybe he did, but he just didn't know he was getting them. Because that's the twist.
Develop that film. Maybe it just happened.
Well, and the interesting thing about this movie,
he doesn't remember being killed.
No. The interesting thing about this movie is they don't disguise who are committing the murders. Like you see, it's the townspeople. Like they kill that dude on the beach, and then it cuts to the diner. People are having breakfast. It's those dudes eating clam chowder or whatever.
And why are they eating?
God, I don't know. I don't know how they do. But there's no that part is not the mystery. We know who the killers are. And the sheriff, played by James Ferrantino, who I was convinced was somebody I'd seen in many things, but had not. I thought he was the guy from Flashdance. He's not the guy from Flashdance.
No, he kind of looks like the guy from Hair, who was also in 1941.
Treat Williams?
Yes.
He's not Treat Williams either.
That's generous, because Treat Williams was good looking back in the day.
We'll talk about him. But he's like the one trying to solve the murders, trying to figure out what's going on. And the grand reveal is everybody in town are zombies, and he's a zombie too. He just didn't realize it.
Right.
He's also, because it was like, because he's having marital issues. That's the other little bizarre subplot. Is like, is my wife having an affair? What's going on? Because she keeps disappearing, and she's hanging out with the photographer who now works at the gas station that I never noticed. Like they're a little.
Yeah, there's all this weird stuff that does, and there were a lot of like Wickerman kind of symbols, like when she's over at the school talking about zombies and witchcraft. I was like, well, this would not have happened in Tehachapi, where they were trying to teach creationism. All these kids are zombies.
Some are. Well, conceivably they all could be. I mean, I guess you're right, because one of the kids they cut to it was a kid who was with his parents running away from the zombies when they stopped to get gas and directions. Like suddenly he's in the class. So,
and the other weird thing. So they seem to be all sentient and living their lives and friends with each other and whatever. So he's created Zombie Town, which he doesn't seem to interact with at all. What's the point?
Well, they say there's a couple things. Because I kept saying, if you know that you're going to have to reconstruct these dudes, wouldn't you say, hey, just, I don't know, slip them some poison or something? Would you say light them on fire every time? Yes.
He wants them to be as jacked up as possible so he can bring them back into a perfect state. Right. But why they then have to be alive doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, so
it'd be the smelliest town in the world.
It would be Stank Town.
how you make love to a corpse without realizing that if you lean on her, a chunk of meat's going to slide off, and she stinks and is cold as F.
Well, I think on some level, the sheriff is, because he's also a member of the Living Dead. There's like he's.
They can't smell each other. You can't
unaware.
smell your own bad breath.
I think it's on some level he becomes like blind to certain realities, is what my guess would be. But you're right. It's like early on, because this town, I swear to God, there's 15 people who live in this damn town.
They're having sex all the time. Wouldn't his dick just rot off and fall off?
They're in a whole lot of...
Her boob slides off onto the floor.
Yes.
There's some logical things that are missing here.
There isn't a whole lot of touch-up you can do with that, I'm sad to say.
Staple it back on.
Oh,
Come
sweet
on.
Jesus.
There has to be some basic functions.
It's
basically,
a sad situation.
everybody's going to be like Chet in Weird Science, where they just look like a gloppy blob by the end.
They would. Yes. Yes. So it's like, okay, so
and
they
how
kill...
does his wife just crawl into a grave? Because if it's like death becomes you, even when you're 1,000 pieces, you're aware.
I don't know what the story, because I guess the reveal is that she was the first zombie. Like she drowned in a creek or something, and Grandpa Joe brought her back to life, and then became his first. Because the moment he brings them back to life, they're kind of like his servants, I guess. And Grandpa Joe's the one who sends them out to murder, I guess initially, hitchhikers and people stopping for gas, but clearly they murdered a bunch of, like, everybody. They're murdering like the waitress at the diner
because he's bored.
Yes, this is his masterpiece. This is his
hobby. Some people, they do woodwork, and some
do
people
woodwork.
Join book clubs.
This is what he do.
And I'm not an expert in mortuary science, but I'm not sure you scrape it down to the skull and rebuild all the way
I was going to say that too. So the one hitchhiker...
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And where did her eyeball go?
Right. She was murdered. The hitchhiker was murdered by creepy old pedophile, the old fisherman who was killed earlier in the movie. He's like, "Hey, where are you going? Don't be afraid. I'm not gonna touch you, little girl."
Yeah,
and she gets I'm like,
red flag.
Yes.
Girl, I'm not gonna touch you. How do you know I'm not a creeper? Is a creeper.
Right. You say, I'll take the next one. I'll get the next one, is what you say in that case. She hops in there. Yeah. She gets killed by the townspeople, and she's jacked. And you're right. It was like literally, I don't think they do this. They literally like her skin is removed down to like literally the bone. And he rebuilds her up with what? Play-Doh? How does this work?
It was like the crazy things that they do for reconstruction. Like if they find a skull. Right. And they want to put it out there to try to identify the victim, except weirder, because you don't then lay muscle down, and it was like one of those invisible people things. Like, have you ever seen those models? Right, the in the museum or whatever, right, where it's just the muscle people standing around or whatever. Yeah, look, we've established we are not experts in the mortician arts. We dabble. But I did see 6 Feet Under, so we dabble. That makes me an expert. I once saw a documentary on Netflix, therefore I speak with expertise. Well, Grandpa Joe even says, like, all the little shortcuts he's done to get the bodies ready for, presentation at, like, a funeral. But that wouldn't help you if you're expecting them to be wandering around town talking to people. Of course. Now, how is she? It's all like wax. So how is she going to eat? How come that isn't just going to fall off? It's not made to move around and stuff like that. And speaking of that victim, her head was crushed by a boulder. Yes. Yet when we see her, it looks like half her face had slightly melted. She was a little melty. If someone takes a rock that big to your head, you're just looking at nothing. You're mush. You're mush. You're mush pie. So they kill the photographer at the beach. They kill the old drunken fisherman. They kill the young family, and they kill the hitchhiker. Those are all the outsiders they kill. But then they kill the the doctor at the hospital,
who was getting too close because I guess they the sheriff hits somebody with his car and the guy's arm gets left behind.
And it's still wiggling. That's what I mean, like death becomes you. So even if I put you through a wood chipper, you're still conscious.
You're still twipping. So they do the experiment on, like, I guess some cells were left behind. They're like, this body's been dead for weeks. What are you talking about, Sheriff? There must be some mistake.
But they're still wiggling, is I guess what he saw.
Still wiggling. So who's to say? But you're right. It's like, is everybody in town or just some people? Because there were definitely people who were like, oh my God, I thought I just saw that crazy old photographer pumping gas across the street.
Yes. And what are his memories? I mean, the townspeople, including Freddy Krueger and the guy from Northern Exposure,
yes,
the friends,
all-star cast.
Assuming that they are locals, have a back experience. Who does the photographer think he is?
Well, he's now Freddy.
His memories. He's Freddy, so what does he talk about?
Well, and the sheriff stops and gets
yesterday?
gas. He stops to get gas from Freddy and calls him Freddy. Hey, Freddy, fill it up. What the hell? He just appeared here last week.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting.
Yes.
I mean, I understand them not knowing what Freddy looks like because he was all burned up.
Well, and Freddy wasn't his real name. Remember, they were like doing some kind of role-playing thing on the beach? I'll call you James.
We're just going to call him the captain. So he never saw the captain as the captain.
No. He saw his burned-up body.
They saw the burned-up body. They never saw him as Daryl Dragon.
Well, Daryl Dragon. They're divorced, I believe. Yes. Captain Tennille, very upsetting.
30-some love did not keep them together.
They did not. Well, I think
they were in for a long haul, though.
They were. Well, I think he started suffering from dementia, and then she pulled a officer and a gentleman on him and said, I'm out of here.
Sending you off to Oklahoma. Is that what it was? I wonder if they could get better services divorced or something like that.
It could be.
I don't know.
Good times. So anyway, but he's burned alive, but then survives. So
yes. Oh my God.
The
best scene in the whole movie is when he's wrapped up with the one eye appearing and just teeth. That looks so crazy. That looks so crazy. And then the nurse comes in and just stabs him in his only one good eye with a needle. Pumps it with air. I mean, couldn't you just click a button or something? It had to be that.
All you had to do was unplug the machine. The respirator.
That was nasty. And of course, no reason to get caught. I mean, who else is in that hospital?
Right.
Everybody's a zombie.
Right. No question. Again, this is a town of 15.
It's a town of 15, and 14 are zombies.
14 are zombies. Like, literally, it's just like, I guess I'm the only non-zombie. You think the sheriff's like, man, is everybody zombies? I guess I am too. We're all zombies. Good times.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet Jesus. This movie. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, all my notes down here. I'm needle in the eye. I don't have anything good written down because it's nothing good to say. This movie was boring.
It wasn't that great. I'll be honest.
The best thing is just seeing the dude with the eye and his crazy teeth, man. It looks so surreal. He looked like a serpent or something. It was the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, are you ready for behind the scenes then?
I am ready. It was an all-star cast. It's crazy.
It was a crazy all-star cast of people who'd eventually become stars, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so we were just talking
stars
about
on the downslide.
The one, either one. This was Grandpa Joe's last theatrical film.
I'm not surprised.
This is the one that saw him out.
This is the one that killed him, and then
he
became a zombie.
Well, and I wonder, it's like I think he died of cancer, and he knew he was going, and yet this is the movie. This morbid movie is the thing he chooses to do. I guess you got to pay the bills.
You got to pay the bills, man.
Good Lord. Okay, so the burn victim in the hospital with the eye and the teeth.
Yeah.
Not a real person.
Yeah.
That was a fake body.
It totally didn't look real. It didn't look human at all. It looked like one of those alien things.
Right. A Stan Winston, famous special effects guy, just decided, because they knew they were going to like stab him in the eye, Lucio Fulci style.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we'll just because his teeth were like gleaming white.
And you have to pay someone. So I'm guessing they're working on a budget.
Well, they already had Freddy. We just throw Freddy in some mummy things, but it's easier just to build a thing and call it even.
I used to think Freddy, when he was on V, was kind of cute.
You mean Robert Englund?
Yeah.
Robert Englund's not Freddy, by the way. He's Freddy. There's Freddy. There's Freddy the photographer, or we will call him Captain.
I meant Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger is in this as well. Robert Englund playing somebody. I don't know. Ambulance
Rando townspeople.
Towny Joe.
Tony Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. Jack Albertson, Grandpa Joe, the man, died a few months before this movie was even released. So very sad.
Yeah, he was very thin.
The director chose this place because it was supposed to be like have foggy conditions.
Oh yeah, it's Mendocino.
All the time.
That's
it's meant to be like kind of a New England thing, as you said.
Man, that's where they filmed An Affair to Remember. I think it was Mendocino. Isn't that where Tara and Rob went for their anniversary?
Who am I, the biographer? I don't know. Perhaps.
I thought that was behind the scenes, you son of a bitch.
This is all behind the scenes. When they were filming the beach scene at the beginning of the movie, the day was too pretty. So they actually had to hang up like banners to kind of try to block the sun to give it kind of more of a gloomy look.
It can't always be cold and rainy. Sometimes the sun comes out.
Sometimes the sun comes out.
I don't know why, but I have never been to Mendocino, the city of Mendocino. But as soon as I saw the town and the coast, I'm like, Northern California. Boom. I had to Google it.
Well, because the coast was always on the right or on the left, or I don't know. It's on one side of the nation.
Oh my God!
I never
put that shit together.
No,
because you can be in a different direction. Yes. I'm like, what?
If I move the camera around, it would change the
camera the other way, then it's on there. I'm like, damn you! You had me almost convinced.
That's hilarious.
And then logic shone through.
Yeah, as it often does.
That's science.
That's science. The director wanted The Side of Blood to be so shocking that he removed anything else that was red was removed from the movie, including brake lights. He made the brake lights purple.
Well, guess what? It didn't work because there was nothing the F shocking in this movie.
This movie was written by Ronald Shusett and Dan O'Bannon, who wrote the original script for Alien.
What?
Yeah.
Before or after?
After Alien. But Dan O'Bannon disavowed the movie, saying, actually, I didn't really work on it that much.
Exactly.
It was the other guy who did it. But since I was more successful, they need to have my name on it to get it, give it a better chance.
Yeah, that's a lot of bullshit backpedaling. Shame.
Right. Ring with the incense. Absolutely. The scene where the family's being chased by the townies in the old abandoned house. I have to say, okay, I got a little sidebar on that. Okay, so they're looking for a gas station. They get into a car accident. They're like, let's go in this place. See if we can use their phone.
Back it up and keep driving.
No question. No, because it's clearly like an abandoned haunted house. There's like giant cobwebs. They're like, anybody home?
One of these, like, I used to go to these haunted house things in town where you open the door, it's another thing. But the best line is, go into the basement and check the fuses. Really, there's 5 inches of dust. Do you think it's a fuse issue?
Yes.
Oh, but it was perfect. It was literally a fun house thing that you pay $25 to go to, where people, you can't see just shadows banging on the glass. It was great. That part was funny.
Well, what's also funny is the first time they see one of the townies in the house, they immediately start screaming, even though they just look like normal people, like normal people from the diner. It's like, yes, the audience knows that they're murderers, but these people be like, oh, thank goodness, we finally found the people whose house this belongs to. Should have been their reaction. Hey, it's you again from the diner.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Good times. So anyway, that scene had to be filmed during the day because they had the little boy, and there are rules about like the hours that children can work on a set. So they put like a huge tarp over the house.
I mean,
make
it's
it look-
interior, so why not?
Well, but there's a lot of windows because it's a lot of people like looking through. Like there's a shape outside the window, kind of thing. So,
Oh my
there you
God!
go.
Then they could have made it an infant and just carried around a plastic one. I'm not crying about their choices.
So they had to hang a tarp over the house, but it got so hot they had to turn on like fans
Oh
to
my
kind of
God.
ventilate it, which means that the noise, the sound could not be used from inside the house. So they had to go back and re-record that later.
What amateur hour
Right.
shit is this?
It's a total freak out.
It's a
total
bunch of
freak out.
students from UCLA trying to bang something out.
This is what it is. I'm telling you. There's one kind of cool moment that they talk about when he is reconstructing the hitchhiker literally from the ground up. He's working on her and he opens up her eye and pops in like the glass eye.
Yeah.
Then you see the camera kind of follows Grandpa Joe as he turns away and does something and then kind of walks and then it pans back to the body. And now it's the real person who gets up. Like they timed it, they pulled the fake body off, slid the real person up there, and if you're not paying attention, it does really it's a good effect if you could see. So good time.
My question is, if the zombie doesn't have eyes, how does it see?
Well, she has one good eye. That's all you need.
And
Yeah.
it was the wrong side of the face, so the melty
Right.
the melty eye is good, but the good eye was bad.
Well, she had
It's,
kind
it's
of
Sammy Davis Jr. So now
It is!
she's gonna bump into the wall because she has no like depth perception, and every time she goes through a doorway, there's gonna be an issue.
hey, the Candyman can still dance, glass eye or not. Say what you want.
I used to
Anyway.
have that issue in the 80s. Wide brim stylish hats were the thing. And I
Yeah.
could never judge my hat because it went beyond my shoulders. So I'd walk into doorways and clip my hat and it'd knock me sideways.
Wah, wah,
Because I had the hat
wah.
like pinned into my hair like a stylish 80s lady. And it'd be like ping. And that kind of destroys the grand entrance.
Very, it does. That messes things up. So if you're paying attention, the hitchhiker is killed after the family in the house, right?
Yes.
However, if you're paying attention, the zombified hitchhiker actually attacks the family. She's the one who climbs in the car with them and tries to murder them. The
Oh.
hitchhiker.
A
So-
little continuity error.
A little
Nobody-
continuity issue.
Nobody noticed that.
Wah, 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 wah. Very
Why
sad.
aren't we making movies, Kevin?
We should. It's very sad.
I told you, start writing a goddamn script for the family.
I've written many about the family.
Not about this isn't the tell-all that gets published after Mom and Dad go
Jacqueline
away.
Suzanne. Yeah, we're gonna do it like that.
Jacqueline Suzanne.
That's what we're doing. Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay, I think that's about it. I don't think it's
What the hell else is there to say?
Should we talk about the cast?
Let's talk about the cast. Why do I know James Ferrantino? Was
James-
he the king of the 70s?
James Ferrantino played Simon Peter in Jesus of Nazareth.
Nope, I
That
didn't
is
see
very
that.
Like
You
I
know
said-
damn well.
I thought he was Michael Nouri from Flashdance. He is not.
He is not Michael Nouri.
His top 4 things
All right.
on IMDb are Bulletproof from '96, which was an
No.
Adam Sandler movie.
No.
The Final Countdown from 1980. Yep. Dead and Buried is number 3 on the list. That
Oh,
gives you
Lord.
an idea. And then, like I said, Jesus of Nazareth.
He must have done TV, I'm guessing.
He's the hardest working man of show business. He did many episodes of ER, playing Doug Ross's dad. So George Clooney's father was James Ferrantino.
He
that's
wishes he was. He wishes.
it. Yeah, he does. I think I'm like flipping, trying to find anything. Anything?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
He was on the
looking,
TV
too.
series Blue Thunder, not the movie, but the TV series that lasted 1 season. So there you go. He was on Dynasty a little bit. I'm not doing any more than that. That's good enough. That's James Ferrantino. He's the hardest working man in show business.
All right.
His wife Janet Gillis was played by Melody Anderson. You know what she has been in more recently, or not
No.
more recently? What did we review that she was in recently?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
I don't know.
She was Dale Arden in Flash Gordon.
Oh, Oh, so
Yep.
2 mediocre actors fell in love.
Fell in love. She was also in Battlestar Galactica, the original 1979. She played Brenda Maxwell. You know her, don't you?
Oh, he was married to Michelle Lee at one time too.
She was also Melody Anderson was also in Firewalker with Louis Gossett Jr. and Chuck Norris. So good, check that out.
Michelle
All-star.
Lee was in The Love Bug.
Good times. Jack Albertson, Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. He was also Manny Rosen in the Poseidon Adventure. He was a voice in Fox and the Hound. Good times. Of course, Chico and the Man. Robert Englund played Harry, the ambulance driver. You know him better as Freddy Krueger. Who else we got here? We talked about Lisa Blount, known as Girl on the Beach, even though she's the evil nurse later in the movie. Famously from Officer and a Gentleman, playing Lynette Pomeroy, who leaves her fiance to go hang himself in the closet. Very upsetting. Barry Corbin from Northern Exposure played Phil. Another random townie.
Exposure. I love Northern Exposure. He was the astronaut, right?
Yes, the former astronaut.
The
He was
former
like the mayor
astronaut.
of the town.
Right.
The guy who played Jimmy, Grandpa Joe's like assistant. You've seen him in a million different things. He's like he was like a Secret Service agent on 24. He was like a general in the Transformer movies. He just looks so weird because he's like a teenager or something.
You think I saw the Transformer movies.
You've
I like
seen
that.
them
That's
all.
that amusing to me.
If I sent you a picture of what he looks like as an adult, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that guy." But because he's like 20 in this, you'd be like, "Who the hell is that guy?" So it's an all-star cast.
I don't even remember that there was an assistant. How about that?
Well, he was the guy that Grandpa Joe was working on, like a victim in his laboratory, or whatever. And Jimmy comes in and says, "Hey, Grandpa Joe, the sheriff's here." He's like, "Oh, don't worry, I didn't tell him about you smoking weed and selling it, Jimmy."
Oh yeah, that's right. I do remember that.
And then later, as kind of
he's still smoking it up too.
Yes, because the sheriff busts in on back into the laboratory, and you see the homie Jimmy is like painting his arm. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Because he's
Yes.
Where we're like, what the hell is he doing? And he kind of hides it. It kind of looks like he was shooting up heroin or something, but he wasn't.
Why wouldn't you
he's
just take the jar home?
Take the damn jar.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It's a very sad situation.
And if everyone's a zombie, who's paying for all the supplies? Because now there's no taxpayers, there's no city, so there's no salaries to be had. Because you've now killed everybody.
Presumably, everyone is still doing their job. Freddy's still working at the gas station.
So it's a closed circle. Unless there's money coming in, they're not groceries from each other. How are the diner? You see what I'm saying?
Even small
Zombies
towns use money. Okay, they don't. It's not a barter system if it's a small town.
Yes, but if you kill every customer before they can open their wallet, then there's no money coming in.
Well, but then those people come back to life as zombies, and then they open their wallet.
Okay,
see? They still have checking accounts. No,
you're wrong, and I'm correct. It makes no sense.
Let's
just agree with me.
Okay, you are right. Okay, let's talk about the ratings. It currently has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yes.
You know what? I'm sick of Rotten Tomatoes. This is the most bullshit rating that I have ever.
59% on audience score. I'm sad to say. Let me look at the reviews here for 16 reviews. Top critics, anybody? What do we got here?
Top critics.
No top critic reviews.
Of
so
course.
take that. Only bottom critics, evidently. Let me see what we got here.
Exactly. What did Roger Ebert say?
Yeah,
Is he
exactly.
a zombie too?
I'm not familiar with any of these guys.
Yeah, of course not. It's all Fangoria, Horror Today.
You wish it was Fangoria. Very sad. Okay, we'll give it your review.
Oh my God. My review is it is going to get 2 out of 2 on the shit scale.
Oh no. Oh.
It is gonna get 2 out of 5 fake eyes with a hypodermic needle sticking out of it.
Good times. I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 melted hitchhiker heads.
Oh my
there you
God.
go. 3 out of 5. I
It's
don't think it's bad.
boring. To me,
I don't
it
think
was
it's
just
bad.
boring.
It's to me, it's definitely the enjoyment is it's Grandpa Joe is the killer.
Oh my God.
The fact that he's the killer, I haven't been out of bed in 20 years.
I wish it was just a Wicker Man ripoff. It would have been better if it was that, but it's not. It's much less interesting than that.
Did you figure out the twist? Is the question.
What twist? There was
That
a twist?
that the sheriff was also a Zombo.
I did not figure that out until it was revealed.
And you did not care.
And I did not care, and then it made no sense. I'm like, really?
Yes.
I was like, I knew when they didn't show who she was sleeping with.
Right, because that's the other reveal. Is it's like so his wife was a zombie the whole time.
You saw every perverted townie leading up to this psycho house and peeking in the windows, and but you don't see who she was sleeping with. Yeah,
right. I think they were trying to get us to think that she was like floozying it up, like she was kind of the Black Widow, bringing people in and then killing them. But the reveal is the guy that she was shacking up with and then murdering was her husband.
Because the whole time I was like, why would you hire, if you have a town that's a murder town, why would you hire an outside sheriff?
Right. Why would you do that?
And why would you bring him back to life after you killed him without the inside knowledge that everyone else has?
Well, it's also like this first murder of the captain on the beach really wasn't the first murder.
No.
Right? There's been murders on the reg.
Freaks.
Right. There have been murders on the reg since,
Did you say murders on the rag?
Yep. Regular.
Oh.
Not on the rag.
That's what I was like, what? Are you trying to make some
I'm not.
Hormonal woman? Kevin,
yes.
You're not a feminist.
That's what I'm trying to say. Really, she wasn't a zombie. She was just suffering from PMS, is what I'm trying to say.
She was
Good
on the
Lord.
rag.
Bro.
Potter's Bluff is the name of the town, and it says a new way of life. Well, the new way of life is apparently no life.
You're a zombo.
The new way of life is death.
It is death. That's exactly right. So good times. So you discuss the twist did not twist your opinion of this movie.
No.
Very sad. Okay,
Boring.
fair enough.
Boring. Now, just for your fun information,
yes,
there are all these sites that are movie sets then and now. So most of these Mendocino sites are all still there.
We'll have to check them out.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Where's the abandoned, dead and buried house? Maybe they're just checking the breakers. Honey, go down to the haunted basement to check the break. Okay, moving on. So there you have it. Thank you very much. Go to our page on Facebook at the Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Email us at the Podcast That Wouldn't Die at Gmail. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc., etc. And Aaron, you are on social media.
I am on the Insta, because I'm not going to call it the Gram. It's the Insta.
The Gram.
The Insta and the Twitski. Twitter to me is just like yelling down a well. Hello.
Right.
No, I have 400 followers. No one ever responds. No one ever likes anything I say. I'm just going to dig a hole in the ground and label it Twitter, and then I'll shout my interesting news into it, and I will have the same effect. So, Twitter, Insta, the Cult of Aaron, join the cult.
Now, Aaron, you also have like art for sale. What's the story?
I have art for sale at the Bakersfield Museum of Art Mix. I sold one piece. I still have 2 more pieces. Check it out.
Good time. Is there a website they should go to, or just Google it, or what?
I think it's called Google the BMOA, the Bakersfield Museum of Art. You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. Good time.
If you join my instant Twitski, you'll see a link.
Very good. So there you have it. Thank you very much, and be well.
Later, Gators.